Jake thought he'd found forever with Mia at a vibrant Miami rooftop party. But when her new friend's flashy lifestyles poisoned their love, a brutal public betrayal at a trendy cafe shattered his world. He walked away, rebuilt his life, and found true happiness, while Mia faced the wreckage of her choices. This is a story of heartbreak, revenge through resilience, and the power of staying true to yourself. Jake's life felt like it hit a new high that warm October evening in Miami, the kind of night where the South Beach skyline sparkles against a coral-streaked sky, and the air hums with possibility. He was 28, a financial analyst grinding away at a mid-sized investment firm downtown, crunching numbers by day and chasing adventure on weekends. That night, he stood on a rooftop at a networking mixer, the clink of glasses and hum of conversation blending with the distant pulse of salsa music from the street below. He wasn't looking for love, just a chance to connect with colleagues over a cold beer and maybe swap stories about kayaking through the Everglades. But then Mia walked into his orbit, and everything changed. Mia, 25, worked in digital marketing for a fast-growing tech startup, crafting campaigns that made apps go viral. She had a knack for drawing people in, her laugh cutting through the crowd like a breeze through palm trees. Jake was sipping a Cuban stout, debating whether to join a conversation about stock portfolios, when Mia approached him. "You look like someone who's been to the Keys," she said, nodding at his faded t-shirt from a Key West fishing trip. Her boldness caught him off guard, but her warm smile put him at ease. Within minutes, they were deep in conversation about their favorite Florida escapes, Jake raving about the mangroves of Biscayne Bay, Mia sharing her love for snorkeling in Key Largo's coral reefs. Their connection was instant, electric. Jake found himself laughing harder than he had in months as Mia recounted a disastrous attempt at paddleboarding, complete with a dramatic reenactment of her falling into the water. She teased him about his obsession with finding the perfect Cuban sandwich, insisting her go-to spot in Little Havana was unbeatable. "We'll have to settle this with a taste test," Jake said, surprised by his own confidence. Mia grinned, handing him her phone to exchange numbers. "You're on," she replied, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Over the next few weeks, their bond grew through shared adventures. Jake planned a sunset kayak trip through the Everglades, where they glided past alligators and herons, Mia snapping photos of the golden light filtering through the trees. She marveled at his knack for spotting wildlife, calling him the nature whisperer as he pointed out a manatee's shadow in the water. Back in Miami, they spent Saturday mornings hunting for the best café con leche at hole-in-the-wall spots, laughing over burnt toast and debating whether guava or cheese pastelitos were superior. Jake loved how Mia made every moment feel alive, her curiosity matching his own. Their Sundays became a ritual of cooking together at Mia's small apartment. Jake would show up with a bag of fresh ingredients from a local market, plantains, avocados, limes, ready to whip up ropa vieja or empanadas from his mom's old recipes. Mia would perch on the counter, scrolling through her phone for salsa playlists, occasionally stealing a bite of mango from his cutting board. "You're too good at this," she'd say, watching him layer spices with precision. "Careful, or I'll expect this every weekend." Her praise made his chest swell, not because he needed validation, but because it felt like she saw him, really saw him, for who he was. Jake's thoughtfulness defined their early months. When Mia mentioned missing the wildflowers from her childhood in rural Florida, he surprised her with a bouquet of hand-picked blooms from a farmer's market, tucked into a mason jar he'd brought from home. She kept them on her windowsill, texting him photos of the petals catching the morning light. "These are better than any roses," she said, her voice soft with gratitude. For their 3-month anniversary, Jake planned a night under the stars at Oleta River State Park, grilling shrimp skewers on a portable stove while Mia leaned against him, wrapped in a blanket, whispering about how these moments felt like freedom. Mia matched his energy with her own gestures. She'd leave sticky notes with bad puns about his finance job, "Don't let the market crash our vibe," tucked into his laptop bag. When Jake landed a big client at work, she surprised him with a homemade key lime pie, her attempt at baking both adorable and slightly lopsided. "It's not perfect, but it's from me," she said, laughing as he took a bite, and declared it the best dessert he'd ever had. They were building something real, grounded in small, authentic moments that didn't need a price tag to feel special. Their weekends were a blur of exploration. They'd bike along the Venetian Causeway, stopping to watch dolphins play in the bay, or spend hours at Wynwood Walls, debating which mural was the most Instagram-worthy, even though neither cared much about posting. Mia loved Jake's stories about his college days, when he'd road trip to state parks on a shoestring budget, sleeping in a hammock to save money. He admired her ambition, the way she'd pitch bold ideas at her startup, fearless even when her bosses pushed back. They'd lie on the beach at night, talking about dreams. Hers to launch her own marketing agency, his to buy a small boat and sail the Keys someday. For 14 months, their relationship felt effortless, like a song they both knew the words to. Jake didn't need to be anyone but himself, and Mia seemed to love him for it. She'd tell her coworkers about his surprises, bragging that he remembered details like her favorite coffee order: oat milk cordido, no sugar. He's not like other guys, she'd say, her voice proud. He makes ordinary stuff feel extraordinary. Jake believed they were untouchable, a team built on trust and shared joy. But as the months passed, he didn't notice the subtle shift in Mia's gaze, the way her phone began to steal her attention, or the new names, Lauren and Sophia, that started slipping into her stories, planting seeds that would soon unravel everything they'd built. Jake's world with Mia still felt like a sunlit dream, but shadows began creeping in during their second year together in Miami. Their once effortless connection started to fray as Mia grew closer to two women from her upscale yoga studio in Coral Gables: Lauren, a social media influencer with a knack for turning brunches into photo shoots, and Sophia, a fashion blogger who documented every moment of her lavish life. Both had boyfriends whose wealth defined their relationships, and their influence on Mia was like a slow tide eroding the shore. Lauren's boyfriend, Ethan, ran a crypto trading platform, always flashing his latest purchase, a sleek black Porsche or a limited edition watch, at group hangouts. Sophia's boyfriend, Mateo, owned a string of boutique gyms across Miami-Dade, casually mentioning his yacht charters or investment condos in Brickell. Their lives were a curated Instagram feed of private jet selfies and rooftop parties at five-star hotels. Jake, still grinding as a financial analyst, couldn't compete with their displays of excess, nor did he want to. His joy came from planning budget-friendly adventures with Mia, like biking to hidden beaches in Key Biscayne or cooking ceviche from fresh fish he'd bought at a local market. At first, Mia's excitement about her new friends seemed harmless. She'd come back from yoga buzzing with stories about Lauren's weekend in Tulum or Sophia's new Chanel sunglasses, gifted just because. Jake listened, nodding along, assuming it was just chatter about her friends' lives. But soon, Mia's phone became a constant companion. She'd scroll through Lauren's posts during their quiet dinners, pausing on images of infinity pools in Bali or designer dresses from Miami Fashion Week. Her fingers moved with urgency, saving screenshots of luxury villas and diamond-encrusted bracelets, her eyes lingering on lifestyles Jake couldn't afford. The shift was gradual but undeniable. When Jake suggested a weekend hike through Shark Valley, a trip they'd once planned with enthusiasm, Mia's response was a distracted sigh. Maybe we could do something more upscale, she said, swiping through photos of Sophia's latest getaway to a private island. She showed him a post of a candlelit dinner on a yacht, Mateo's arm around Sophia, captioned, "Living our best life." Jake felt a pang, sensing the comparison wasn't just to the trip, but to him. "This is what couples our age are doing," Mia added, her tone sharp, as if their sunset picnics were suddenly childish. Mia's language began to change, peppered with phrases like knowing your worth and elevating your lifestyle, words Jake recognized from the motivational captions flooding Lauren's and Sophia's feeds. She'd linger on posts of Ethan surprising Lauren with a $5,000 handbag, her expression unreadable but heavy with something new: discontent. During a quiet evening at Jake's apartment, as he grilled mahi-mahi for tacos, Mia scrolled through her phone, muttering about how Ethan had flown Lauren to New York for a Broadway show just to make her smile. Jake tried to laugh it off, joking that his tacos were a better love letter, but Mia's half-smile didn't reach her eyes. The group started weekly meetups at Miami's trendiest spots, restaurants in Wynwood, where appetizers cost more than Jake's grocery budget for a week. Ethan and Mateo dominated these outings, reserving private booths and ordering bottle service like they were auditioning for a reality show. Jake felt like an outsider, his stories about optimizing client portfolios or finding a new snorkeling spot falling flat against Ethan's tales of crypto windfalls or Mateo's plans to expand his gym empire to Fort Lauderdale. Mia, once proud of Jake's practical approach, began shifting in her seat, her discomfort palpable when Lauren flaunted a new Prada clutch or Sophia described a private chef dinner Mateo had arranged. The pressure mounted at a rooftop bar in South Beach, where the group sipped $20 cocktails under neon lights. Lauren leaned across the table, showing off a diamond tennis bracelet Ethan had given her for no reason at all. Sophia chimed in, detailing Mateo's surprise trip to the Bahamas, complete with a chartered boat and champagne brunch. Mia's silence was deafening, her fingers gripping her phone as she scrolled through their posts, each one a reminder of what Jake couldn't provide. When he mentioned his recent raise, hoping to share his excitement about saving for a condo, Lauren's polite nod and Sophia's quick subject change made it clear his milestone didn't measure up. Mia's comments grew pointed. "Some guys know how to make their girlfriends feel special," she said one night, as Jake drove them home from a dinner that left his wallet $80 lighter. She wasn't looking at him, her eyes glued to a video of Lauren's latest surprise gift, a designer watch. Jake gripped the steering wheel, his stomach twisting. He wanted to remind her of the nights they'd spent dancing to street musicians in Little Havana, or how she'd once called his handwritten letters the sweetest gift she'd ever received. But her words stung, and he stayed silent, sensing the gap between them widening. The tension spilled over during a group brunch at a Coconut Grove bistro, where the menu boasted $15 avocado toasts and $9 cold brews. Ethan and Mateo were in rare form, Ethan boasting about a new investment deal that changed his life, Mateo announcing plans for a pop-up gym event with a celebrity trainer. Mia's mood darkened as the meal progressed, her responses to Jake clipped. When Sophia casually mentioned Mateo's latest gift, a weekend at a Key West resort, Mia's fork froze midair. "Must be nice," she muttered, loud enough for the table to hear. Jake felt the air shift, like a storm brewing over the ocean, but he didn't yet know how close it was to breaking. The Coconut Grove bistro buzzed with the Saturday brunch crowd, locals sipping overpriced mimosas, influencers snapping photos of their acai bowls, and Jake sitting across from Mia, feeling like he was losing her with every passing minute. The air was thick with the aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon, but the tension at their table cut through it all. Jake, now 28 and still navigating his role as a financial analyst, had sensed Mia's growing distance for weeks. Her new friends, Lauren and Sophia, and their flashy boyfriends, Ethan and Mateo, had turned their once-cherished moments into a measuring stick for Mia's dissatisfaction. Today, that tension was about to erupt. The group's weekly gatherings had become a stage for Ethan and Mateo to one-up each other. Over $50 plates of truffle fries and lobster benedicts, Ethan bragged about a crypto deal that supposedly netted him a six-figure profit overnight. Mateo countered with plans for a pop-up fitness event in South Beach, complete with a DJ and celebrity guests. Jake tried to join the conversation, mentioning a new client he'd landed at work, a deal that boosted his savings for a future home. But his words landed like a deflated balloon. Lauren barely acknowledged him, and Sophia pivoted to gush about Mateo's latest stunt, booking a private helicopter tour over Miami for her birthday. Mia sat quietly, her fingers drumming on the table, her untouched courtier growing cold. Jake noticed her glancing at Lauren's wrist, where a new diamond bracelet sparkled, a spontaneous gift from Ethan. Sophia, not to be outdone, pulled out her phone to show photos of a sleek Audi Q5 Mateo had surprised her with that morning, parked outside her condo with a red bow on the hood. "He just gets me," Sophia said, her voice dripping with rehearsed gratitude. Lauren nodded, adding, "It's about finding someone who matches your vibe and your worth." Her eyes flicked toward Jake, the subtext clear. He wasn't measuring up. Jake felt the weight of their judgment but stayed calm, sipping his water and focusing on the bill that was bound to hit triple digits. Mia's silence was louder than the chatter around them. She scrolled through her phone, pausing on a post of Lauren's bracelet, then Sophia's car, her jaw tightening with each swipe. Jake tried to lighten the mood, suggesting they plan a group kayak trip to Key Biscayne, hoping to remind Mia of the adventures they used to love. "Sounds fun," she muttered, but her tone was flat, her eyes still on her screen. The tipping point came when Ethan, with a theatrical flourish, pulled a velvet box from his pocket and slid it across the table to Lauren. "Just a little something I picked up," he said, smirking as she opened it to reveal a custom rose gold pendant engraved with her initials. Lauren gasped, immediately angling her phone for a perfect Instagram shot. "You're too much," she cooed, though her performance felt scripted, like she'd known it was coming. Sophia clapped, declaring it goals, while Mateo promised to top it with his next surprise. The table erupted in praise, but Mia's face darkened, her knuckles whitening around her phone. Jake sensed the storm brewing but wasn't prepared for its force. Mia pushed her chair back, the screech against the tiled floor silencing nearby tables. "You know what?" she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the bistro's hum. "I'm done pretending. My friends have guys who treat them like they're worth something. Cars, jewelry, actual experiences. And me? I'm stuck with you, Jake, planning picnics and kayak trips like we're in high school. Where's your ambition? Why can't you step up like they do?" The words hit like a slap, each one louder than the last. The bistro fell silent, forks pausing midair, servers freezing in their tracks. Jake felt every eye on him, the weight of strangers' curiosity burning into his skin. Lauren and Sophia exchanged glances, their lips twitching with barely concealed satisfaction, as if they'd been waiting for Mia to finally crack. Ethan and Mateo shifted uncomfortably, but their silence spoke volumes. They weren't surprised, just relieved the spotlight wasn't on them. Jake's heart pounded, but he refused to match Mia's outburst. He'd seen this coming, the slow drip of her discontent fueled by her friends' curated lives. He could have fought back, pointed out that Ethan's crypto wealth was likely a house of cards, or that Mateo's gym empire was propped up by his parents' loans. But arguing wouldn't change the fact that Mia had chosen to measure him against a lifestyle he'd never promised. Instead, he reached for his wallet, pulled out enough cash to cover the entire table's bill, $120, plus a generous tip, and placed it on the table with deliberate calm. Mia was still mid-rant, her voice rising as she listed his shortcomings. "You're content with average, Jake. I deserve more than some guy who thinks flowers from a market are romantic." But Jake was done. He stood, his chair steady, and walked out of the bistro without a word, leaving Mia's voice echoing behind him. The glass door swung shut, muffling her words as he stepped into the humid Miami air, his mind already racing toward a decision that would change everything. In that moment, Jake knew staying meant fighting a losing battle against Mia's new priorities. He drove to his apartment, the city blurring past, and began planning his escape, not out of anger, but clarity. He wasn't running from Mia, he was choosing himself. By nightfall, he'd booked a room at a budget hotel near downtown, packed a duffel with essentials, and started searching for apartments in Tampa, where his firm had an opening with a promotion attached. Mia's betrayal had been public, but Jake's response would be private, permanent, and entirely his own. Jake's exit from the Coconut Grove Bistro marked a clean break from Mia and the toxic orbit of her friends. Driving through Miami's neon-lit streets that night, he felt a strange calm, like the quiet after a storm. At 28, he was done trying to fit into a world that valued flash over substance. By the next morning, he'd checked into a no-frills extended-stay hotel near downtown, a practical space with a small kitchen where he could regroup. Jake wasn't just leaving Mia, he was reclaiming his life. Within days, he requested a transfer to his firm's Tampa office, a move that came with a promotion to senior analyst and a pay bump. He spent the weekend scouring listings and signed a lease on a modest apartment overlooking Tampa Bay, its balcony perfect for morning coffee and watching pelicans glide over the water. The move was more than a change of scenery. It was a chance to rebuild without the weight of Mia's expectations. Jake dove into his work, tackling complex investment portfolios with a focus he hadn't felt in months. Outside the office, he rediscovered passions he'd sidelined, paddleboarding along the Hillsborough River, where he'd raced the current, and volunteering at a local wildlife center, photographing rescued manatees and sea turtles for their adoption profiles. It was at one of these volunteer events that Jake met Emma, a 27-year-old marine biologist who worked at a Tampa aquarium. She was kneeling beside a tank, coaxing a shy octopus to take a shrimp, when Jake snapped a photo for the center's website. Emma noticed his camera, a vintage Nikon he'd bought secondhand, and asked about his settings, sparking a conversation about analog photography and their shared love for Florida's coastal ecosystems. Over the next few weeks, they bonded over kayaking trips to Weeden Island, where Emma pointed out osprey nests, and Jake taught her how to frame the perfect sunset shot. Her grounded enthusiasm, untainted by social media posturing, felt like a breath of fresh air. When Jake surprised her with a homemade grouper ceviche after a long day at the aquarium, Emma's genuine gratitude reminded him what connection could be. Simple, reciprocal, real. Back in Miami, Mia's world was unraveling. She'd expected Jake to call, to grovel, to promise bigger gestures to win her back. Instead, he vanished. She tried texting, calling, even showing up at his old apartment, only to learn from the doorman he'd moved out without leaving a trace. Mia's attempts to reach him through mutual contacts failed. Jake had changed his number, blocked her on every platform, and deleted their shared digital history, from playlists to photo albums. Desperate, She messaged a co-worker who knew Jake, spinning a tale about being worried for his safety. But the co-worker, loyal to Jake, shut her down. Mia even called Jake's office, claiming a family emergency, only to be told he no longer worked in Miami. Her frustration grew as she realized Jake had erased her from his life with surgical precision. Mia's friend group, once a glittering showcase of wealth, was fracturing. Lauren's boyfriend, Ethan, faced a fraud investigation after his crypto platform collapsed, leaving investors furious and his assets frozen. Sophia's boyfriend, Mateo, was drowning in debt. His gym chain shuttered after tax audits revealed he'd been dodging payments for years. The lavish gifts, the cars, the jewelry, were revealed as financed by shaky loans and shady deals. Lauren and Sophia, now stuck with credit card bills and fading social clout, turn on each other, their Instagram feeds shifting from curated perfection to petty jabs. Mia, caught in the fallout, found herself alone, her dating life a string of disappointments. Men who promised wealth but delivered lies, or others who saw her as a fleeting fling, not a partner. Months later, Jake's new life in Tampa was thriving. He'd lost 10 pounds from paddleboarding and felt stronger, both physically and mentally. His photography hobby blossomed, with local galleries featuring his shots of Tampa's mangroves and wildlife. Emma became his partner in every sense, joining him on sunrise hikes and cheering when he landed a major client at work. Their relationship was built on mutual respect, no pressure to perform, no comparisons to others' lives. When Jake planned a quiet dinner to celebrate Emma's research grant, grilling snapper and opening a bottle of wine on his balcony, she hugged him tightly, saying, "This is why I love you. You make every moment matter." Mia's desperation peaked when she heard through a mutual friend, Carlos, that Jake was engaged. Carlos, a former colleague who'd stayed close with Jake over beers and fishing trips, mentioned a backyard barbecue in Tampa to celebrate Jake's proposal to Emma. Mia, unable to let go, drove 3 hours from Miami, crashing the event uninvited. She arrived as Jake was flipping burgers on the grill, laughing with Emma's brother about a recent fishing trip. Mia approached, her voice shaky. "Jake, I need to talk to you," she said, interrupting the festive chatter. The crowd hushed, sensing the tension. Jake turned, his expression neutral, and nodded for her to continue. Mia's words tumbled out, regrets, apologies, admissions of chasing a hollow dream. But Jake's calm response was unwavering. "Mia, you made your choice. I've made mine." He turned back to the grill, leaving her standing alone, the weight of her actions settling in as Emma's laughter rang out nearby, a reminder of the life Jake had built without her.